Hello everyone. In today's video, things might get a little wild. They may just go downhill from here, not to set this video up for failure. I feel like every year I get this itch to do a reading challenge, and I think that time is now. This, I'm sure you can tell by the title, is going to be reading for 24 hours. Now, I've always wanted to do this challenge, and I say that with a little bit of hesitation because obviously it's crazy and unrealistic because I can't be doing it 24 hours straight. But we're going to be stopping and starting a timer, obviously, but we are going to be reading a lot in one go. And I've always been intrigued, like I said, by this challenge, but there's never really a good time because I'm a person that has things to do in their life other than read. So having a chunk of time that I can just read for 24 hours is just not every day for me. And I figured now would be the better time of any because my husband is away. So I don't have to worry about messing up our routine too much. And not that I couldn't do this with him here. I just think it'll be easier not having him here. Let's take a look at my TBR for this video. Now, going in, I have no expectations of how much I'm going to read. I have no clue. Obviously, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna get through a lot of books, but I don't want to set the bar high or anything. So I basically just have a handful of books that are just on my TBR shelf that I want to read anyway. And so this is going to be what I am selecting my books from. And so we're gonna see how much I can get through in the next 24 hours. Two of these are a reread. So The Silkworm will be a reread, and then Jane Eyre, if I get to it, will be a reread. And then I have Throne of Glass, and then I have The Lady of the Camellias and Mansfield Park, which I think I also talked about in the 2025 TBR video. So 3 classics. If my brain becomes fried from the classics, I have a nice romance fantasy to ease my pain, probably. Maybe this will create different kind of pain. I have no idea. So yeah, that is my TBR for this probably very ambitious challenge that I am undertaking. Oh, let me get one more book actually, hang on. So you probably throughout this video will also see me reading from this book. And since this is such, for any reading challenge really, but since this is such an intense challenge, I'm including all reading, right? Just to help myself out a little bit. So I'm going to be including my Bible reading. And then this year I've also been reading R.C. Sproul. So this is Faith Alone and Willing to Believe. I'm not a huge fan of nonfiction, but I do try and incorporate it. And I typically read it much slower, just like 1 chapter a day after my Bible reading. I will be counting when I'm reading this because I'm reading. We're reading for 24 hours. This is going to count. But I probably won't be like talking about it or showcasing it a lot or anything, but you probably will have footage of me reading this, just so you know, in case you see those clips and you're like, what's going on? That's what's going on. I'm taking all that I can get. And I guess without further ado, we should get started. So all right, guys, it's time to start the 24-hour timer. It is 12:30 in the afternoon, and is that a good time to start a 24-hour challenge? I have no idea, but that's what we're doing. That's how today has gone. I'm gonna use my iPad. Also, though, unrelated, look at this absolute masterpiece of a sandwich. That's going to be my lunch. I'm so excited to eat this. Here we go. So I think the first book that I'm going to jump into is going to be The Silkworm. Time-wise, we're almost an hour in. I'm excited to probably just read this for the rest of the day. 7 hours and 20 minutes almost. We're making good progress. I'm like 60% of the way through. It's a lot. It is a lot in one day. It is now nighttime, and I'm not planning on staying up too late to read because, like I mentioned in the intro, I'm a person with responsibilities during the day. So, but obviously we'll keep the timer going. I mean, we'll pause the timer while I sleep, and you know what I mean. It's not even that late. Why am I talking like I'm delirious? I love this series so much. I think this was a good way to start this challenge just because I know I love this series. So it's not like I'm trying to muscle my way through something that I don't even know if I like. So I think this was a good call to start. But it's wild to be like, oh my goodness, I've read for 7 hours. That's a long time. But then to think I'm doing it for 24, so we're not even halfway there. My spirits are still high because I'm excited about my TBR. I don't know if I'm gonna like them. That's the thing with books. You don't know if you're gonna like them when you pick them up if you've never read them before. It's not even that late. Why am I like zoning out? It just shows you I've read too much today. But we're not done. I'm on chapter 32. I love these characters so much. I love Robin and Strike. I love them. I love them so much. And if you've never heard of this series, it's basically just a mystery detective series. Nothing super unique about that part of it, but what is unique obviously is the main characters. I love their writing style so much. I think she writes a really good story, and I love her character building. If you like mystery detective stories, I would definitely suggest this, but if you're also into the slowest build of a romance that you've ever read, this is the book for you. Because obviously their two main characters have a lot of romantic tension. You will only understand that if you're in it for the long haul. You can't read book 1, 2, probably even 3 expecting some sort of romance to happen. There's going to be a lot of tension, and from book 1, obviously you can tell that some sort of dynamic is forming between them, but just for perspective, last year I read book 7 and I'm waiting for book 8 to come out, and that's why I'm rereading this series, and they're not together. Haven't even confessed their feelings to each other yet. So I would understand if you would think that was annoying. However, I, on the other hand, am absolutely obsessed with it. It kills me every time, but I eat it up and I keep coming back for more, and I'm absolutely foaming at the mouth for the release of the 8th book this September. So yeah, this is book 2. No romantic interests from her yet, but like clearly the seed is planted, right? I need to get back to reading, so I'll probably talk to you in the morning. It's crazy that I'm reading this book so fast. Alright, I'm not even that tired. Okay. Hello, it is the next day, and I have done a little bit of reading earlier this morning, but I actually had to do some kind of last minute babysitting, which I wasn't going to turn down, so I haven't been reading because I was paying attention to my niece. But yeah, it's okay. I am almost done with The Silkworm. Not almost done, I'm like 70% of the way through, which is good. So I'll definitely finish that today, which is wild. Having a good time. I will check back in with you later after a snack because I'm hungry. What? Okay, hold on. This is Alexander Dumas' son? He literally just referenced his father. What is happening in this book? I was really not expecting him to just reference his own father. I don't think I can read anymore, guys. Not tonight. I was kind of hoping I would get through more of this today, but I haven't. Do I look really crazy? Like, should I... I'm like having to reread sentences and my eyes are closing. I don't stay up well. Guys, late nights is not normal for me because I'm a early riser sort of deal. It is almost 11, which it's really late for me. And this is so far not what I thought. I didn't really know what I thought because I'd never read anything from Dumas' son before. It is stranger than I thought it was going to be. But you know what? I'll tell you about it in the morning because I need to go to bed. So timer is stopped and we are going to go to bed. Good night. So, I finished The Lady of the Camellias, and I know I said I'd update you in the morning, but I didn't do that, and here we are, and I finished the book. So last night, I actually did end up reading for another 30 minutes-ish after I said I was gonna go to bed, because, kind of unrelated, I sleep with a heating pad at my feet. It's kind of really old, and sometimes it doesn't heat up when I set it to heat up. So I had thought my heating pad was heating up, but it wasn't. And I really don't like to not have my heating pad when I go to sleep. So I was just like, you know what? Maybe I'll just read for another 30 minutes while it's heating up. So that's what I did. So I just finished this and I will tell you what it's about, but I will also tell you that I did just take a break for a little bit, probably a little over an hour because, well, I've been reading a lot and I needed a little bit of a break. And I kind of, for some reason, was thinking to myself that I needed to read Mansfield Park next. And I don't think I was really looking forward to doing two classics back to back like that. But I just remembered I also have The Throne of Glass, which will probably be a much easier read. Not that Lady of the Camellias was hard, but you know, I've talked about it before, like the difference between like a modern fantasy romance and like a Penguin Classics book that was been translated from French, you know. My motivation has been brought back a little bit with the thought of being able to just read this, probably for the rest of the time. But yeah, Lady of the Camellias. What the heck is this book about? This book is basically a story about a man who falls in love with a woman, but this woman is basically a prostitute who is kind of taken care of by this baron who lost his wife and daughter, but this woman reminds him of her daughter, and so he kind of basically just is treating her like his daughter, and which is kind of weird, but not really. He's not really a huge character in the book. So she gets an allowance from this man every year, and she asks him for money, and he gives her money to an extent, and she is kind of like I said, a prostitute, and she apparently has a lot of debt. And she also is kind of self-destructive. The book describes her as suffering with consumption, which I was like, I don't know what that means. In my head, honestly, that goes to like substance abuse, consumption, like she's an alcoholic or like a drug addict. I looked it up. That's not what it means. Well, at least not what it was meaning back then. Back then, saying someone was suffering from consumption was basically saying they had tuberculosis, but I also was reading that in the context of this book, some scholars believe that it was syphilis. So she was very ill and kind of self-destructive because she would drink, stay up all night, have a lot of relations with a lot of men, just kind of self-destructive behavior. And she would have relations with men to pay off her debts and get money. And so she lived a very sort of high-class life, even though she was not really looked highly upon. But our main dude here falls in love with her. Basically, it's like this toxic relationship between the two of them. And I don't like to use the word toxic because I feel like that's just like such a modern kind of cringy term now because it's so overused. But he falls in love with her and she ends up genuinely falling in love with him too. But he isn't like a rich man, and it's not like that she doesn't love him because he's not rich. She just is like, yeah, but you literally can't afford what I need because I have all this debt and you actually can't afford that, and I don't want you to give me all your money, because she actually was in love with him. But it was just like her explaining to him, look, I need to be these dudes' mistresses because they're gonna give me money that I need to pay off my debts. And he would be like, okay, but I love you. And she'd be like, okay, I love you too, but like I need to meet with this gentleman tonight. And then he'd be incredibly jealous and angry about it. And she'd be like, I told you, like, this is what I do, okay? You can be my boyfriend basically, but like this is the life that I live. And so it's just kind of back and forth with that, which is weird. And then at one point she's like, screw it, I want to live with you. And they go and rent this house on the countryside for like 6 months and just do nothing but frolic with each other, because she's not a really well received woman, right? Like in society, the man's dad talks to her and is like, hey, basically my daughter's trying to get married to a respected family and everybody knows that my son's been hanging around you and that looks bad on us. So could you, like, for his sake and for my family's sake and my daughter's sake, can you like leave him alone? And so it ends up being her leaving him because it's the right thing to do for his financial well-being and his family's social status and all that. And basically she dies at the end, which isn't a spoiler because it's told after she died. It starts off with the man telling this story because she has passed. And that's pretty much it. I enjoyed it. Was it the best story I've ever read? No. If it was longer than 200 pages, I would have hoped something more would have happened, but I think it was a decent enough length to where it didn't get too repetitive. But yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling to get through this 24 hours. And it's, like weird because it's taking me longer than 24 hours to read for 24 hours. But listen, I gotta not completely sacrifice my sanity, okay? So I think I'm gonna start Throne of Glass, which I have mixed feelings about. I've talked about my opinion on romance fantasy before, but I bought this book, so I'm gonna read it. Alright guys, honestly I read for about another hour. I'm about 50 pages into Throne of Glass, and it's got that, I guess, normal thing for female leads in fantasy novels that kind of annoys me, that she's like really sarcastic and like stubborn and tough-headed, which for me can cross a line easily. The very minimal exposure I have to romance fantasy novels, like this genre, I can't say I've read a ton of it, but the minimal exposure I have to it, that's every female lead. And not that I don't like it, it's just like walking a line for me being close to not liking it. I've noticed that, but it's not like super annoying right now. We're only 50 pages in, so I need to go outside. I need to get some fresh air. I'm thinking I'm going to maybe try and jog a little bit, but mostly just get out and move my body a little bit, because like yesterday, and I was doing this challenge and I had other things I needed to do that day, so like I had to take breaks, but today I didn't have anything else to do, so I've literally just been lying in bed reading. So I'm feeling it, and so I'm going to get some fresh air and move a little bit. I still have quite a long way to go, so I'll check back in later. Okay, we have reached the 20-hour mark, and I feel like that means we're on the home stretch. Only 4 more hours, which is still a very long time, but definitely, I guess, home stretch. I am, I guess, about halfway through, and it's really good. It's really easy to read, and I'm going to probably compare it a lot to ACOTAR because, I mean, ACOTAR is also Sarah J Maas, and that's like my only real experience with romance fantasy. And I will say, I think this one jumps more into romance faster, and maybe you'll disagree with me on that. So basically, she's an assassin, and she's being brought to the king to compete in these tests to become the king's main assassin. This would give her a salary and eventually grant her freedom because she's been a work slave in the mines for a time. So she wants to win because she will get money and freedom. So it's her competing against, I don't remember, like 30 or something other assassins, thieves, and whatnot. One of the guys who's training her is the captain of the guards, who is her age and very attractive and best friends with the prince. So the prince and the captain of the king's guards came to collect her, and the prince, of course, is also her age and very attractive. And she's like buddies with the prince and the captain of the king's guard, which is just like, oh no, so sad. And it felt like immediately they are thinking like, oh, she's attractive, she looks beautiful, or he's hot, you know, we're describing his eye color very precisely. And not that anything romantic has occurred, but it felt like the romance happened rather quickly. But like, I am halfway through the book, so is it moving quickly, or am I just reading the book really fast? I think it's a mixture of both. I think it is moving along really quickly, but I am also halfway through the book. But like, there are like other books in the series. It's not like it's a standalone, so not like things have to build quickly. But yeah, so there's like 2 dudes' interest for sure. I'm not a huge fan of love triangles anyway, but I also especially don't really like it if the 2 dudes are gonna be friends. The 2 dudes are childhood friends, and it'll make me sad if they're like fighting over the same girl, because we have no reason to not like either of them. They're both seemingly good dudes, so I have no problem with either of them. So if we're gonna be like having to pick one, that'll be sad. And there's also a 3rd dude for sure. One of the other men in the competition, they've been kind of partnering up when training, and he's been described in a bit too much detail. He's also young in her age, and like his eyes are a very specific color. So obviously the romance is a part of the plot, but then there is other things going on. The competition for one, but also she just had this ghost visit her in the night telling her that there's evil in this castle, you need to win this competition, and you need to find this evil and get rid of the evil in the castle. So something's going on. I don't know exactly what it is yet. But yeah, I'm halfway through this book. I'm really curious to see, with 4 hours left, if I can finish this. And I will, I guess, probably talk to you when I'm done. I'm actually feeling good though. My spirits are pretty high. I'm not feeling like I hate reading, which is good. Success. I think that was a major win. Took me longer than I thought it would to read for 24 hours, which, like, what? Honestly, I think that was a good call. Prioritizing my well-being, because if I had just read for 24 straight hours, I would not be happy right now, I don't think. Reading challenges are interesting in that way because you go in so excited for the challenge and getting through your TBR and being able to read so much because you like reading, that's why you're doing a reading challenge. But then you end the reading challenge hating reading, not wanting to read again for a long time, and hating yourself. So we successfully avoided that. So I read 3 full books in 24 hours and a little bit of another book, and I really enjoyed it, and I want to continue reading. I'm excited to continue the Throne of Glass series, and I'm still looking forward to the other things on my TBR shelf. So that was a win. Read for 24 hours, read a lot, and don't want to never see a book ever again. So success, I would say, to wrap up a little bit of The Throne of Glass, I really enjoyed this book. It's really easy to read. The prince and the captain of the guards are both, of course, in love with her. That's one of the like stereotypes in fantasy books where it's like this girl is just incredible and like how could you not fall in love with her? Can be kind of eye-rolly, but also enjoyable. So it's that they're like both very much so in love with her and dealing with those feelings. And I did feel like throughout this whole book was just flipping between her being with, not being like with romantically, but like literally spending time with Prince, and then next scene, oh, Cole shows up. And that's another thing. Maybe it's just Sarah J. Maas, but this happened in ACOTAR too, where like these love interests just come into her room in the middle of the night because they can, and she's like okay with it. It's no big deal. But when do these people sleep? During the day, she's training. She's also reading 4 books a week and competing, you know, trying to not die. And there's obviously other subplots going on, and she's up late at night. 2 guys just like coming into her room to just chat with her. And it's like very entertaining to read, but it's like, when is she actually sleeping? And why is she okay? Why is the prince and the captain of the guards just like coming into her room and it's like, not a big deal? But it's just, you know, we have to move the plot forward somehow, I guess. To just wrap up this 24-hour experience, I would like to note, in a span of 24 hours, I read 1,087 pages, which is pretty cool. I did not know what I was expecting, but I feel like 3 books is good. It doesn't really matter, but that's what happened. That's going to wrap up this reading challenge, and I just want to say thank you for watching and keeping me company. The whole reason we're doing this is because I was alone, so it's actually been nice. You've been keeping me company over these 24 hours, and I really appreciate you being here for that. And I really hope you enjoyed watching. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I read in this video, I'd love to discuss it with you down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any new reading videos. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!